This is a video to explain how to read charts in a knitting pattern. So a chart can be used so that symbols represent knitting instructions. It gives a visual representation of the fabric and reduces the amount of written instructions. Unfortunately, there's not a universally agreed set of symbols, and so a chart will always come with a key to explain what these symbols mean. So one pattern designer might use a horizontal line for a purl, another designer might use a dot for a purl. So they have to explain what each of the symbols mean for their particular chart. Now, charts are always read from bottom to top, and they usually start at the bottom right corner. So you can see here there's the two numbers 1. So these are the rows, or in this case this is rounds, because all of the numbers are on the right hand side, which means you're always going to read the chart from right to left. So here's where round 2 starts, here's where round 3 starts, here's where round 4 starts. Because you're knitting in the round, you've always got the right side facing you, so you'll always be working from right to left. And so visually you see it as you would knit it. You knit the stitches from right to left as they appear, and the fabric sort of goes down as you work up. So it makes sense that we start down here. And the numbers on the columns represent the number of stitches in the repeat. So this is one repeat, there are 16 stitches in the repeat. And there's no shaded in circles, which means, or shaded in boxes, which means the stitch count remains 16 stitches. It's not growing and it's not decreasing. So sometimes you'll find charts have shaded boxes to show that for that particular row there is no stitch there. That isn't the case in this pattern. So this is a pattern that's a chart that's for knitting in the round, and each of these symbols respond to the symbols in the key. So this pattern here has a 16 stitch repeat. It's actually a pattern from the Monkey Socks, which are on knitty.com, and there's 64 stitches in the basic sock. So you would repeat this chart 4 times to get to 64 stitches, because 16 times 4 is 64. Now, if you have a pattern, here's another chart for a pattern that's knit flat, and you'll see that we still have the numbers down the bottom for the stitches, but row 1 starts here, and then row 2 is over here, and then row 3, row 4. So I'm saying rows because this is knit back and forth. So you'll follow the chart from right to left for when you're on the right side, and then when you turn the work, you'll follow the chart from left to right. Now it turns out that this chart here, because it's knit flat, this one has these red boxes around it, which means it's a repeat. So you may do these 3 stitches a number of times as you progress in the pattern. And this one also has a chart, but you can see here that the boxes, they'll have right side knit, wrong side purl. So a blank box is you're doing one thing, you're knitting that stitch if you're on the right side, but when you come back to it on the wrong side, when you have that blank there, you'll actually purl that stitch. So it's important that when you look at your chart, you actually recognize that for some of them, it means one thing on one side and something else on the other. I do recommend when you're doing a charted pattern that you actually put some sticky notes over, let's say you were on row 4, to actually put some sticky notes on the pattern, and then when you finish that row, to move them up. What that enables you to do is to see the row below, so you can see what you're working on top of. It makes it easier when you're actually knitting the pattern. And then when you finished, in this case round 4, you'd move it up to round 5, because you've just done round 4, and then you can see round 5, and you can work from right to left as you work that next round, and not being distracted by the symbols that are above.